Next up, I talked a little earlier about our partnership with Cisco. And Cisco has evolved our cooperation, development, integration, but also go-to-market has really evolved over the past 18 months. It's my pleasure to invite Frank Palumbo, the Senior VP of Cisco Systems. Frank. Excellent.
How are you, sir?
Good, thank you. Thanks for joining us. And Frank, we sent out a survey before everybody showed up here that to see how many of the people in the audience were New York Yankee fans, and it came back that no one was. In fact, that the majority of the people here are Red Sox fans. Is that true? Red Sox. There you go. All right.
There's a few Yankee fans out there.
So I heard you're a.
There we go.
Okay, there's one. All right, there's one. So I heard you're a diehard, like New York Giant Yankee fan,
yes, sir.
right?
Yes, sir.
So you really love the Red Sox camaraderie, rivalry?
I mean, I spent a lot of time in the city of Boston. I love the Yankee Red Sox thing, so I think
it's great.
It's healthy. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you for coming here. I know you got a lot of things going on, and we've really accelerated the partnership together over the past 18 months. Why do you think that's the case? What's brought about that kind of increased momentum?
Well, I think, Peter, the partnership has many touch points, right? It's not just go-to-market, which we're really getting ongoing, and packaging offers and those things, but our development teams have come together, for a while now.
Right.
So it's in development, it's in the go-to-market, it's got many levels, and I think that's what makes it good.
It's really exciting to see, and the teams are working really well on both the development and integration. When you talk to, you've been, like you and I, we've been through a lot in the kind of seeing the data center transition. Yep. What are you guys seeing, and what are some of the trends you see in the kind of the data center and network space?
Well, a lot of it you hit on here in your agenda this morning, but when you talk digital transformation, that's just a big buzzword. Customers are in different places. Some are a little further ahead, some are behind. Yeah. So I think it's really how do we outfit the data center so it can get to where they got to get to in terms of where they want to be from their business perspective, but still taking consideration of the assets they have and how they can move along and do it at on their timeline.
That's great. When you're talking to IT and executives, what message is Cisco delivering when you talk about enabling digitization in this digital transformation?
Don't do any demos and stay away from Olive Gardens. So no.
The best demo you do is the demo you never did.
That's
kind of
true.
fair. Yeah.
Right. A lot of the times when we're talking to executives, we need to them to understand the value of the network in the digital transformation, because the network really does touch everything. And when you're talking about things like how to set policy, how to enforce policy, the network is a great vehicle to deliver that. Whether in your space it's a backup policy, a DR policy. The network can deliver some of those things that you guys are starting.
That's excellent. Well, I know that a lot of people want to hear where you guys are going at Cisco. I'm going to step back, kind of let you talk to them, tell them a little bit about where you're going and how you're talking to your customers.
It'd be great.
And they're probably, a lot of them are here today.
Right. Well, thank you. So, hey, good morning. Appreciate it. I think that we're the last segment here before you guys break, so I know how that is. But I am not going to go crazy with a digital transformation presentation about how many more petabytes and stuff is going to be out there. But
zettabyte,
zettabytes with the 21 zeros and all those things. It's a lot of stuff. All right. But in terms of the amount of devices that are out there, we believe 500 billion. Will be connected over the next 24 months, in the world, right? So you can imagine the stress that puts on, the infrastructure that we help provide in terms of routers and switches and all those things. And it even changes the way you do stuff like here, to do this presentation. And, I don't care how compelling I think I am. You guys are all on your phones, you're tweeting, you're checking messages, you're doing all those things. You're multitasking based on all this stuff that's happening. But if you do the double click, and really look about the digital transformation impact, of IT in the data center. What do we have, right? We have applications that are in many form factors, right? We'd love to talk about the modernized ones, right, that are all ready to go, but they're out there on the mainframe. And if we can stick an IP stack on the mainframe, we, Cisco, have to bring that into the environment. There's a lot of applications still out there on risk platforms. And these are platforms that run your business, run your university, run your government. Right, so they're out there. So you take, hey, what are the applications? What platform are they on? Then, hey, everything's virtualized. That's great, but there's a lot of bare metal. And then you get into the future, there's containers to deal with. And a lot of people are saying, hey, this new serverless technology, am I going to be ready for that? So then you get into the actual workload location, right? Where should I put this thing? You know, I want it on-prem. Is it going to be in the cloud? Am I going to use SaaS to do something here? You know, can I get it there? And if I put it in the cloud, is it going to be compliant to what I want to do? Do I know what flows are going to go back and forth? Do I look at a colo strategy where the application is in the cloud, but I might want to keep the storage in a colo just from a performance and price perspective or a compliance perspective? And then on the management side is like, hey, with all the stuff that's going on, I can't do this with even the most hardworking people. The machines have to manage the machines. I have to have some level of automation, you know, when we look at this. So in my travels and my team's travels, I want to give you just kind of a snapshot of what we believe, generally speaking, your shopping list is. And this is what customers are telling us, you know, to say, hey, Cisco, help me get ready for this digital journey, or help me on this digital journey that I'm on, right? So they say, hey, Frank, help me modernize my infrastructure. I got to get it ready, you know, for this whole digitization. In the data center, in the campus, and at the edge of my network. Help me modernize my infrastructure. But, you know, I got to have it open, and I got to have it automated. I don't want to be locked in either way. I want to take advantage of some of the proprietary tools that I have, some of the open source tools that I have. That's going to be, you know, a real key pillar on my shopping list. And I am going to do some of this stuff on-prem, whether we call it just the data center like we used to call it four or 5 years ago, or now we use the word private cloud, but it might be just the same data center that you had running 4 or 5 years ago. I'm going to do some of this stuff on-prem. But I'm also going to do some of the stuff in the cloud or in SaaS, or I have cloud managed. And that's going to be, you know, a pillar of my business again. But I also need to make sure I can move workloads back and forth securely. And even along those lines, I got to make sure the blueprints that I use for my applications can look the same if they're on-prem or off-prem. I don't want to have to re-engineer the applications as they move forward. And sometimes that tribal knowledge isn't documented. And we've seen a lot of things happen where the network and what we're doing can help you do some of that. The other thing is, I got to be able to get users on and off quickly and seamlessly. I got to get ecosystem partners on and off easily and quickly. What I used to call my extranet. You know, I can't have this bureaucracy to get my ad agency on board, or my temp agency, or the people I use for my outside services. And I also got to have some automation for my business users. I got to make it easier for my business users to get to the infrastructure and really, through menu selections and portals, get what they need. This is what customers are asking us. Then they ask us to really, throughout the whole enterprise, right, build a common policy model. Right? Whether it's a thing called a whitelist, or if we need a certain DR policy model that Veeam can help us with, I need to push this out through my whole enterprise. Again, the edge, the data center, and the campus. And I need security everywhere. And really, the only way to do security is at every level. You can't just have security in the data center. You can't just have security at the edge. You got to have security throughout your infrastructure. That's the way to catch the bad actors out there. No one technique is going to do it. And the more modern one, I think, is more, hey, now analytics everywhere. Right? We have a product we call Tetration, which really will capture every flow on the wire in the data center. Not some of them, every one. And we were able to do some things like DVR it back. So we could say, hey, let's replay that transaction from last Thursday from 2 to 3 and see what was flowing through our data center. So when I talk to our customers, I think this is a pretty good shopping list for you all to say, hey, I think I'm looking for this kind of stuff. You know, Frank, certainly when you talk to a vendor like Cisco, and obviously it's up to us to kind of fulfill, you know, this promise. And the answer for us is a vision we call ASAP in the data center. And it's analyze, simplify, automate, and protect. And it gives us kind of a nice moniker, a nice marketing phrase for the data center. What I really like about it, it just gives our development teams, you know, the right guardrails to say, if we're developing a product and it really doesn't fit one of these verbs here, maybe we should think twice about what we're doing. So it really gives us a nice way to kind of keep focus in terms of what we want to do in the data center. So here's Our portfolio, in terms of the goods and services we sell in the data centers, a $10 billion portfolio for Cisco, and we're kind of the proud plumbers, and we're happy to be plumbers and network people. We're good with that, but sometimes people don't forget almost 20% of the business from Cisco is purpose-built products for the data center. Whether that's in our server line, our data center switches we call Nexus, we have a full fiber channel line, or the firewall intrusion detection appliances, and most of these markets we're number 1 or 2 in. And then across the top line, the software, the automation software. I mentioned Tetration and what we're doing in the open source community and with our own products like UCS Director. So that's really the portfolio we have, and you can see we try to drive it off the application and really this whole policy model that we've even put some of our policy model code in the open source community. So let me just switch horses a little bit here and just touch on why we're excited about the partnership with Veeam. And it's really, you get into, hey, the cost of downtime, right? And you've seen a lot of stats on here, but we know now it's not just down, it's slowness, it's availability. This stuff will cost, if you're a business, it'll cost you money. If it's a government, it's a problem for you. And even if it's a university, in terms of you can't get kids to the registered classes or something going on, it's going to be a problem for you. And it's been monetized, there's a lot of studies on that. But in other words, this is where we feel when you combine the Veeam technology with their software and some of the infrastructure prowess that we have, we're really going to give you that 1 + 1 = 3 in terms of cutting down on what you have here. So when you talk about availability and you talk about the Veeam technology, what I like to say is we're very, very focused on a policy model throughout the infrastructure. And this is where we're certainly going to look to Veeam to help us with, hey, what's the DR policy? Whether it's to be just to have the data safe or the compliance end of it, and really move through this whole continuum with our enterprise customers. We have a great example of what we're doing with our compute platform. We call it Cisco UCS. And not to get into a belabored presentation on our whole server line, but you could see we'll go from anywhere from standalone servers to converged infrastructure to hyper-converged infrastructure and to a new storage server we have, which we call S-Series. We're going to give you the same management interface, the same syntax, no matter what form factor we put it in, right? And this is where you'll see a lot of the Veeam integration, a lot of the packaging with them, with their software, and some of our server technology. When you look at the converged infrastructure, we're by far and away the leader in this market. And it's been a lot of hard work because we've had to go out there and really put together the right alliances and partnerships with the storage vendors like NetApp, like EMC, like Hitachi, like IBM. And I'm not talking about just what's on a brochure. We put together a validated design with all the syntax that really takes a lot of the guesswork out for customers to say, hey, I can buy something that's ready to stand up. With the vBlock offering, it's actually pre-engineered and delivered from VCE, as a combined infrastructure. We have a great reference for Veeam technology with one of our hyperconverged vendors at Independent Bank. And really, this was where they were using the technology at the edge or in the branches, and it really allowed them to really onboard and offboard branches as they come in to really hit their business outcomes. And I want to just leave you with one final thought. And I want to congratulate, Peter and the Veeam team. I know a lot of you out there are either hands-on, part of a team, or you lead a team, you manage a team that works in either your business or in a government or in a college, really keeping data safe, keeping the infrastructure up. And I know, because my SEs have told me, that sometimes senior leadership doesn't appreciate it unless there's a problem. It's like an umpire. I love baseball. It's like an umpire in baseball. They say a good umpire is one you never notice because they're always making the right call. I think sometimes that's the way some of you feel and some of my team feels, is when things are going well, nobody takes notice. Well, when there's a problem, that's when senior leadership, appreciates what you do. I know how hard you all work keeping things together. Right? So if you're a police department, the first responders can get there. If you're an older person, you need to get a prescription filled. That's all based on infrastructure that a lot of you keep up and running. So when you get an opportunity to come to New Orleans and have some fun and meet some of your peers in the industry, hopefully share some war stories, and I'm sure there'll be some cocktails involved, and then you can complain about your boss together. That's always fun to do that with someone outside your company. You can get a lot more liberal when you do that. Or some of you got a new boss that you have to train, right? Because you have to bring them up. And then you have to change your tune if your boss is with you. Don't use that strategy. Use a different one. But my point is, you have a couple of days of downtime. Please enjoy it. I appreciate what you all do, and thank you for listening.
Excellent. Frank, thank you.
You got it.
That. Excellent.
Have a great show.
Yes, excellent.
You got it.